You can make food from thin air. That's pretty cool. This is Ftrhstry. We're remembering the next 100 years. In 2022, 2 companies are already making food from thin air. What are they doing? What's the catch? The catch, to the extent there is one, is that what they're really doing is culturing bacteria. So they're planting, gardening, farming, if you will, but with microorganisms instead of plants in large amounts of soil. And so they take just a little bitty microbe and then they pull down using solar energy or some other renewable energy. They pull down a little water from the air. They need vastly less water to supply this microorganism with what it needs for expansion than you would for, say, a plant, because it's much more efficient in this controlled environment. They pull down a little water, then they pull the carbon into something they can make into basically a food for the bacteria, like either formate or some kind of CO2. And then they supplement this with little vitamins and nutrients like calcium, which plants would typically get through their root systems in the ground, and the bacteria grows and grows and grows and cultures just like you would with yogurt or beer, and eventually it produces essentially a protein powder. They dry this into a protein powder, and it's very high protein. It's got all 9 amino acids, at least in one of these 2 companies' cases. In the other company's case, it's 65 to 70% pure protein, and there are a bunch of fibers, some fats, some mineral goodies in there. Anyway, it's very high quality, very healthy protein, and you can use it to make all sorts of stuff. It's very flexible. One company refers to it as sort of a flour because they kind of can bake with it, but because it's protein, they can bake it into stuff that tastes a lot like meat, like scallops or chicken or other things that look like protein powder. You can make meatballs with it. Yeah, oh gosh, it's right there. I hate myself for doing this, but it is, in fact, theoretically possible to extract meatballs from clouds using this technology. I don't know, what are you going to just leave that on the table? It's there. It's obviously there for the consuming. So, why is this useful? Obviously, it's useful to get food from thin air, but it's also exciting from a farming standpoint because you can get 10 to 20 times the efficiency out of this process as you could from just a plant. And when you take it all the way through the meat process, you can get like maybe hundreds of times more efficient because, again, it takes hundreds and hundreds of gallons of water to produce just like one piece of edible meat in the 2020s. Not a fan from the 2120s. We're not a fan of the whole animal agriculture thing. We think it's like pretty weird. And except in some sort of religious traditionalist services, we don't do it in the 2120s. We do stuff like this. We're much more intentional about our food creation. And for us, it's quite natural to use all sorts of bacteria. We're also much better at identifying what kind of bacteria and proteins are especially good for human bodies or for other kinds of bodies, and what might have various effects in various health vectors that might be desirable. So we use a lot of this technology in the future. It makes sense. It was designed in the 1970s, actually. NASA came up with some version of this for early astronaut food, but it was speculative. They never really went anywhere with it. We do, in fact, use it on places like Mars in my era of the 2120s, because you can get oxygen from the water on Mars, from the ice on Mars, and then you can turn that into food for these bacteria cultures, which then produce protein powder, which is super nutritious and a very healthy staple for people on a planet far away from rich irrigation resources and agribusiness. So this is like hyper efficient. One other way to think about that is the power that you get from a solar panel is like 17 to 20% of the sun's juice that's hitting it. A plant is only going to get like 1% of the sun's power and turn it into biomass. And that's because plants aren't designed to capture rays across a wide spectrum. They only capture what they need to grow. Solar panels can be much more efficient. It's therefore much more efficient to grow a large amount of this protein from bacteria than it would be to, say, grow soy, which is a huge growth industry in the 2020s. It's a big source of food for other agricultural animals, which again, not a fan of, but if you're going to do it, you might as well do it more efficiently with food from the air. You could also feed animals this while you're working on just how to get the flavors and the textures up to human snuff to get them into those 5-star restaurants and your, generic local fast food place in a way that really hits the spot and makes you feel like you've done something nasty, but with the knowledge that you've helped both your body and the planet. You could also cut down on deforestation, which is a lousy problem in the 2020s. In the 2120s, we're much more about reforestation because we're much better at diverting energy and water around our planet. All right, that's basically all there is to know about food from the air. It's cultured bacteria getting fed water and minerals from carbon to produce large amounts of protein powder, which can then be repurposed to any meatball-related function you might desire. Okay, happy futuring. Go have a snack. Bye up.